Hi everyone, it is Katie from Moonflower Moments. I'm going to go ahead and do my favorite pairings of 2024 today. So I don't actually write down my pairings as I go, so I had to dig through the archives of my phone, like my stories on Instagram. Then I had to take a second and look at my armoire, but it was a lot of fun to kind of remember these pairs that I used at the beginning of the year. So I am going to try to go in order of that. So I am going to break it into Tarot and Oracle and then Tarot and Tarot because that's primarily what I use. But for each category, I'm going to start with the pairs that I use primarily at the beginning of the year and then work my way up to now, which is the end of 2024. So these were my favorite pairings. So to start out with, my first pair is going to be Southern Gothic Oracle. We'll go ahead and put that in the middle, a little playing with pairs action here, with NOLA Tarot Cats. Sorry, it takes me forever to put them down. Y'all are probably watching this in 2x speed. How fast do you watch YouTube? I always watch everything 2 times. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to cut the stack and then we'll get started. So I feel like this was just a natural match for me. Being that I am from Louisiana, it is really important that I have decks that represent that. But I use this pairing a lot working with my ancestors. So I found that the cats in particular really had a strong voice of my most kind of recently departed ancestors that grew up in Louisiana. Whereas the Southern Gothic Oracle seemed to represent for me some of my ancestors that were a generation or 2 removed. And you can see this nice blue motif here. The Southern Gothic Oracle in particular has a lot of things that are deeply nostalgic for me, such as the Black-Eyed Peas. Whereas the NOLA Tarot Cats, I grew up going to New Orleans every once in a while, but not often. However, my grandfather grew up in New Orleans, and so I do have a deep connection to it through that. My mom also spent the first 8 years of her life down there. So it's definitely rooted in me ancestrally. I also found that these 2 decks like to do a lot of work with me underneath my live oak trees. So there is something really beautiful about using decks that are rooted in your geographic location for the most part, outside and interacting with nature. So in particular, this is actually a live oak here in the background. So I thoroughly loved it when I would pull an image from the NOLA Tarot Cats that seemed to match what my backyard itself looked like. So look, here we go. Here's another live oak, and I have 2 very large ones in my backyard. So this was a feel-good pair in the sense of it kept me rooted and it kept me grounded. But it also gave me the opportunity to connect with those just a little bit further removed from me as well. There's a lot of wisdom between these 2 decks. And I love how moody the colors are. These colors are spot on right here. I think that they communicate really well together, and I'm happy that I found this match because Southern Gothic doesn't get as near as much attention as I wish it did in my collection. So there we go. So that was my first favorite match. I believe I was using that one in the springtime. And then another favorite match with my NOLA Tarot Cats was with my Faceted Garden Oracle, which is absolutely no surprise. Faceted Garden Oracle is my favorite Oracle deck of all time, so it makes sense that it would peak there. I just want to show y'all what these 2 look like together. So I did originally put these together because I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I really think that these colors would go well together. And they do. There's a slight moodiness here that I really enjoy. But it quickly went beyond just the aesthetics for me. Ooh, look how pretty. The cats tend to be a little bit mysterious and a little bit airy to me. They're a little bit flighty. And so I like having the Faceted Garden to really kind of pin them down and help them make more sense to me. Because some of the images for the cats are a little bit bizarre and a little bit strange. Reading with cats itself is just an interesting experience. But reading with the Faceted Garden, this is such a tested and true oracle in my collection that I really feel like I'm able to get some sort of connection between the cards. through the presence of the Oracle deck. So it acts as that foothold with the very grounding words such as cactus and mycelium. And like mycelium with this is so beautiful because of the way the cat's like arms are kind of stretched out like an octopus. It definitely matches the image that we have going on here. So I like the Faceted Garden for giving me access to some of the decks that perhaps might be a little bit trickier or like weirder for me to work with. I think that it offers a really good grounding to those decks. And it's interesting too when like this deck is mostly like plants and then all of a sudden you get like a human. And it's weird, especially like when the cats are being anthropomorphized. I definitely butchered saying that word. It's just a unique take on it. So this was my second favorite pairing with the NOLA Tarot cats. Now I do have another pairing to show with the Faceted Garden Oracle. And I think this will be the last one it pops up. I really do get fixated on particular decks, and then I end up loving not only the deck themselves, but what I pair them with. So it makes sense that some of these decks are playing multiple roles. So that would be Faceted Garden. That one hasn't changed in the middle. With little birds, which I'm always just such a fan of. This was my favorite nature deck of the year, little birds. And I'll leave a link in the description box below where I went through and I awarded a bunch of different decks, a bunch of different categories of awards. So similarly to the cats, the birds can be a little bit removed, which is no surprise to anyone, being that like birds see the world from the bird's eye point of view. And so I very much enjoyed using these two decks together because Faceted Garden, like I've already said, grounds me. And the birds give me a larger point of view. They allow me to see things from a larger perspective. And so it's almost as if I'm getting like a duo kind of purpose. I can see things from a very up in the air perspective, like, what does this fruit look like? But at the same time, I can see it from a very grounded perspective of here's a terrarium. So I'm like stuck in that environment. So it had a really nice play on perspective. It definitely represents like the above as well as the below. And then sometimes you get like this where the color scheme just really adds up and it's just like breathtakingly gorgeous. But I like it. Faceted Garden acts as a very nice clean palette with the little birds. Gives a little entrance point on the way in. All right, so that was Faceted Garden with little birds. And if you notice, I tend to always stop on this guy because he is my favorite little bird. Once I get to him, I'm like, okay, I'm done showing. All right, next is going to be a little bit different in the sense of we're not so on the nose with nature. I say that, but this is definitely a nature-y oracle. The tarot is not nature-y though. So this is Secrets of the Mystic Grove. And I paired it quite frequently with Jupiter King over the summer. And this is some slippery cardstock. It's very nice, but it's slippery. There we go. We got a little family. So I found this pairing specifically because these decks came in at the same time, which is so great. I like it when I find myself slipping into patterns with my buying habits, and I'll notice that I'll buy like colors, like decks that have similar colors or similar themes kind of at once, I guess because like I'm feeling that I don't have that in my collection and I really want to have it. So this late summer period was one of just very bright and intense colors for me. And I did a lot of healing work with both of these decks. So Secrets of the Mystic Grove has the ability to really kind of slap you on the face with information that you need to hear, especially the guidebook. The guidebook is such a treat for this deck. It comes with like 3 different questions for each card, and the questions are really potent. So I was pulling tarot cards around those questions from the Oracle and really letting it guide the reading. But it was nice to have a simple RWS kind of clone in the background, helping me get through some of the deeper things that the Oracle was bringing up, because the Oracle was so on the nose and it definitely did not pull any or hold any punches, that it was good to have a system that I could fall back on that just felt very natural for me, and that was the RWS. So as for the JK Tarot, I have it in the revised edition. I wanted to get both like the revised and the non-revised from Tarot Collectibles, but they didn't have that when I went to back the campaign. They only had the revised edition, but I'm happy that I got the revised edition because it has the brighter colors, and I think it goes better with like Oracle decks and a lot of what I have in my collection already. So I think that this is a match made in heaven. Really like these two together. Actually, I'm getting distracted while I'm flipping because I'm like, oh my god, this looks so good. It's a match that makes me happy. It's a good mood match for sure. All right, so this was Jupiter King Tarot, or JK Tarot, with Secrets in the Mystic Grove. All right, next we have a match that I bought the Oracle specifically to match the Tarot, and I very rarely do that, but I felt in this case it was the right thing to do. And that's going to be my Jade Oracle with my beloved favorite Aztec Tarot. Of course, he's going to make this list because it's a favorite deck, so favorite pairings with favorite decks makes sense. Alrighty, here we go. Look how good that looks already. I love this so much. I got the Jade Oracle at the end of the summer. Actually, I wouldn't even say the end of the summer. I think it was like, probably like October. So it was really kind of fall already. But I think I was missing the Aztec Tarot because I had put it away because we were getting into the fall time, and you know, like this is just very saturated and reminds me of summer. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll go play with my fall decks. And it wasn't a couple more weeks later that I was like, you know what, I think I need the Jade Oracle. And then I brought the Aztec Tarot back out, and it was a nice little match. I find this to be a very grounding match as well, but it almost feels like this deck is like, it's like playing with like filtered sunlight. The way that the messages read, it's like sitting underneath the tree and you just get this ray of sunlight that comes down for you, especially because this has all of this bronze color. So I feel like I received quite a lot of knowledge from both of these decks. And then when you combine them together, it's like basking in the sunlight. So the Jade Oracle, I believe that on the guidebook, let me go ahead and get it out. It says that it is, deities and symbols of ancient Mexico, and it actually has one side written in Spanish and one side written in English. So it has deities, but it also has symbols of ancient Mexico, such as, for example, the corn. And I've grown up close enough to Texas and spent enough time visiting in Texas that some of these images just feel very natural to me. It's not quite my geographic region at all, actually, but it's within a few hours and is close enough for me to feel like it gives me a little bit of that same flair as well, that same groundedness. Just pleasant readings together. I mean, look at that. So I think they were made together. That was the Aztec Tarot and the Jade Oracle. The Jade Oracle is available on Etsy, same with the Aztec Tarot. All right, and then my last of the Tarot Oracle matches. And this is one y'all have seen often enough, so I won't spend too long on it at all. It just didn't feel like a favorite pairings list if I didn't include it. So that would be Terra Botanical and my Prairie Majesty. Another absolute match made in heaven, if you ask me. These decks were totally made for each other. I know I've spoken about this before, but of course, Terra Botanical being the deck that just reads my soul. When I noticed that it read well with Prairie Majesty, it was such a leap in Prairie Majesty's favor, because any deck that plays along nicely with Terra Botanical is probably going to be a favorite in my collection. But I like how grounded the Prairie Majesty is. I think you're kind of noticing probably a similarity between how I use my Oracle decks and then also my Tarot. I'd like my Tarot to be more open-ended, hence having this be a pip deck. But I do really like my Oracle to ground me and give me kind of like a way into the tarot reading. And I didn't really realize that I did that until I started showing so many nature oracles, and I made that connection. Because my nature oracles are the ones that I use paired up with other things. Decks that most people would consider to be a little bit tricky. My other oracles, such as the Queen of the Moon Oracle, which, I mean, it's a moon oracle, so you could argue that it's a nature oracle, but to me it feels a little bit more generic, I guess. I use that one for more individual reads. So I think it's really the nature oracles that ground me. So, all right. So I'm going to pick up this guy. We are moving to our Tarot on Tarot matches now. So if y'all use Tarot on Tarot, let me know. Let's go back to the beginning of the year with this one. And I don't think that this one, like, made it on my YouTube channel very much, because I was reading with this match actually before I started my YouTube in 2024. So this is one I don't think many people have seen. And that is going to be my Dinosaurs Marseille with my Serpent Peacock first edition. Let me cut the stack here. Ah, there we go. This match is like the ultimate brain tickle. I don't know any other way for me to describe it other than the match tickles my brain. And I do similar things with this setup, kind of like what I explained in Slavic Legends, where I would put 3 of Serpent and Peacock up here and then 3 of the Dinosaurs Marseille at the bottom. I just don't have enough room on my filming desk to do that setup here. So Serpent and Peacock is already so absolutely bizarre that I really appreciate the dinosaurs matched with it, because it kind of matches its wit. They're very funny, they're very sly, they give me a really good laugh. So this was a match I was using early on a lot in 2024. I would say arguably it was one of the matches that made me realize how much tarot can enhance tarot when you have the perfect match. Like, I love the way the colors look here. But I was using it a lot in early 2024 to help me just kind of bring a little bit of light and joy to my life. I think that during the winter last year, it was a lot colder than usual, and I was definitely missing my springtime. So these two decks together brought a lot of levity to me, and they're just a really darling match. I love them. They make me laugh. So there we go. That is Serpent and Peacock with the Dinosaurs Marseille, which, if you are learning Marseille, I think that the deck that you're attracted to the most is the one that you should use. However, I will go ahead and say that this Marseille is not a traditional one, like by any means. So it was my first Marseille deck, and I think it put me off from learning Marseille for a little bit of a while because it didn't match some of the reference materials that I had. So I just wanted to give you that warning that you know, buy the deck that you're interested in, but I probably wouldn't start on it as a beginner. Okay, next. And this is a match that really has my heart. Actually, this match is basically some of the only time that I actually use Somnia is when I'm doing this match. So perhaps they're a little bit of a pair in that way. I do use Corte. Here's the name of the deck if you need it. I do use Corte with other decks, but I very rarely use Somnia with any other deck besides this one. Somnia is a really cold reader to me. And so I decided one day when I had got Corte in that I was going to do a little bit of playing with pairs. And I kind of matched it with Somnia because I thought that the colors, like color tones, would match well. But I didn't have much faith, being that Somnia is a newer deck, but the Corte is an older style historical handmade deck. So I didn't have much faith in it. But I feel like the way that Somnia is portrayed with everyone wearing shrouds, it's almost timeless in a way. And so therefore, even though the time periods are, I mean, seemingly drastically different, they actually mesh really well. And so Corte gives me kind of the portal into Somnia, because Somnia reads very cold to me, and it's never been a truly intuitive reader to me, even though it is a very cherished deck in my collection. I felt like I need to have something here in the middle to give me an insight to what's happening between these cards. So for example, if I pull Judgment and I pull Two of Cups, I would want to know how I go from Judgment to Two of Cups. And I go from that through the Chariot. So the Judgment, my awakening, the moment where I realized that I have to do more, I have to be more, led to me having a fierce determination to form those connections with other people. So this acts almost as if it's an oracle between the two cards, explaining their connections. And I just think it does a stellar job of that all the time. So this is an extremely functional pair. I have used this pair for client readings before. But some of the more adventurous clients, because Somnia can be scary if you've never had a tarot reading before, I think. And it's worked out well. So I say for sure that Corte is the reason that I have a deeper relationship with Somnia. Sometimes our decks need a little buddy. All right. So that would be Corte with Somnia. All right, next is a definite favorite match. I would say this is my second favorite match of 2024, if I haven't already claimed that already. Sometimes I get too excited and I name things as my favorites preemptively. And these are two different tarot decks, so they do have very similar color tones. So this is Under the Oak Tarot, and this is my Tarot Landscapes. If you have these two decks, go put them next to each other right now. It does bother me a lot that like one is a larger size. So Tarot Landscapes is larger than Under the Oak. Under the Oak also has a much sturdier cardstock than Tarot Landscapes. Tarot Landscapes has a pretty bad bow. I'm not gonna lie. But I love both decks so much, so I'm not going to nitpick with them too bad. I feel like these exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, but the same world. This is our fantasy land, whereas this is the harsh reality of the world that we live in. So the Tarot Landscapes tends to be a little bit shadowy, whereas the Under the Oak, because it's this young girl exploring this world, tends to have a little bit of a lighthearted play to it. And so it's a really beautiful thing where we think that we're giving to other people and other people are giving to us. But in actuality, we're experiencing the Ten of Swords, which is total defeat. So we're giving too much of ourselves, or other people are giving too much to us. And that's created this codependent cycle in which really all that's left at the end of the day is just the wreckage of these feathers. So this is a match I use as well for clients quite a bit. They're a bonded pair, y'all. I don't typically have bonded pairs. I like my decks to be a little poly and have like a lot of different pairs, but this is a monogamous match. I really don't add anything else to it. When I take out one, I take out the other, and I'm wholeheartedly good with that. I think it is so wonderful that Tarot Landscapes slotted in so nicely, because I was worried that it was going to completely take over Naturescapes' position. And while it's true that I don't use my Naturescapes deck much, I don't think it would have slotted in anyway, because this is just such a different deck than Naturescapes. So if you're on the fence about like, should I get one or should I get the other? I do think that they tend to live in different spaces. So I really didn't have too much worry about if they were going to cancel each other out. Okay, so this is my pairing. This would be Under the Oak, which is my fantasy world, and then Tarot Landscapes, which is reality, which is sometimes harsh. All right, next, I think I have a pretty unusual match. I'm kind of shocked with how well this works. And that's going to be my Bug Tarot, with my Tarot Vampyres, and I have edged this one. I love these guys together. I mean, in defense of the Bug Tarot, it actually goes along with a large majority of my collection. So I find the Bug Tarot to be just a very friendly deck. So as is the case with much of what I've said earlier, I really actually struggle a lot with the Tarot Vampyres. I love the guidebook, so I definitely am going to keep the deck forever, because I get so much just from studying the guidebook, way more than I get with the cards themselves. Because I think that the guidebook for Tarot Vampyres, the lessons you learn from it can be applied to so many different decks. But that being said, the artwork doesn't really speak to me. And so what I decided to do one day was match these decks together. And I found that they sing really, really well. So let me come up with an example. Okay. So I find the imagery in the Tarot Landscapes to be like, not Tarot Landscapes, sorry, Tarot Vampyres to be a little bit murky, especially because it's a little bit darker. So what I do is I look for a shape here in the Bug Tarot, and then I look for the shape on the other side, and I focus on those shapes. And that kind of gives me a portal into the Tarot of Vampyres successfully. So I see this circle here. I also have picked up on a circle here, a circle here, a circle here, and then two circles here in the background of the scales for justice. And so when I'm reading this, I use this less so as a tarot than I do an oracle. I really use it kind of as a center point into the shapes. So I look over here, and this is the Four of Scepters, which is the Four of Wands. And typically when we think of that, we think of like home and celebration and having like a strong foundation after all of our hard work. But this guidebook actually talks about a sacred circle. And so she's creating the sacred circle so that she can perform magic within it. And so I would pay attention to this wreath here in the sense of she has like the inner strength to be able to do whatever she needs to do. She has the inner strength to be able to access her power. And then we have this portal image back here, this window. And so through her inner strength, through the circle that she's created for herself that really grounds her into the earth, she's able to look up and let her magic influence what's outside of her, which is true for this is the Page of Pentacles as well. I like that a lot, like using the skills that you've learned and like seeking and trying to figure out how to use those skills in the everyday world. And so through her personal power and her application of that power, she'll be able to find the balance and the inherent justice. And so she's able to use her power for what she sees as balancing the equilibrium. So that's it. So that's how I use these two pairs together. So that would be Tarot of Vampyres with the Bug Tarot, which, like I said, it gets along with a lot in my collection, hence why it shows up here a lot, because it's a very friendly reader. All right, and on to my last one. So I found this match while actually filming a video for TarotTube. So I found this on camera, and I want to give you an update and tell you that I've been using it all the time. These two decks have actually become my outside decks. So I have a screened-in porch, and whenever I'm feeling the urge to go pull cards on the screened-in porch, when it's a little too wet to go sit out in my garden, these are the decks that I find myself using. And I don't quite know why, but I do know that I really love that I'm using this match. So this would be Chromata Emblemata with my Lord of the Rings Tarot. And it is just a perfect pair, guys. Perfect pair. I love these decks together. So they really give me the air of we're going on an adventure. So the Chromata Emblemata can be quite haughty with its language. I find its language to be sophisticated. I resolve all doubts by self-reflection. Ooh, okay. Fate shall show you the way and fortune will favor you. So it has that sense of like haughtiness and like a little bit uppity of language. That makes it just very fun to use. Whereas the Lord of the Rings Tarot here in the middle is a pip deck, but it oftentimes features individuals like going on trips, which would make sense for the Lord of the Rings. So it's almost as if we're going on like this really like high level fantasy quest here on the side with the Chromata Emblemata, and then in the middle the Lord of the Rings gives us extra information of where we're going and what we're doing. And I think these colors are just an absolute stunner together. So thematically they fit. I feel like they have the same sense of like loving pretentiousness. And they're beautiful decks, both of them. So definitely one of my favorite pairs of 2024 as well. Alrighty guys, so that was my favorite pairings of 2024. I'm probably going to make another video to this, like a sister video of pairings that I want to try in 2025, because when I was going through my armoire and looking at the pairings that I used, I found so many more that I want to use for 2025, and I always come up with pairs, but then I never write them down or put them anywhere, so I forget that I want to use them. So that video should be on its way soon in January. I want to thank y'all so much for sticking around and watching my channel, and I hope that the rest of this year treats you well. So see you next time.